As with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games.
Without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
This is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds.
Floyd Mayweather calls out Jake Paul over no knockout rule in upcoming fight. Floyd Mayweather has criticized Jake Paul for the no knockout rule in his upcoming bout with Gervonta Davis, accusing him of prioritizing entertainment over genuine competition. Mayweather argues that Jake is more focused on promoting the spectacle than respecting the sport's integrity. While he acknowledges that both fighters know what they've signed up for, he believes the fight lacks the seriousness expected in professional boxing. According to Floyd, true boxing should be rooted in skill and real competition, not diluted by staged rules designed to turn it into a show.
But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers.
Wade Plemons criticizes exhibition label. Mayweather aims to steal the spotlight. Boxing analyst Wade Plemons took to X to voice his skepticism about the upcoming Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis bout. "I think we all knew this would be an exhibition," he wrote, "but the Florida State Athletic Commission saying they'll display skill without necessarily striving to win using strikes and blows to the head probably isn't the best way to advertise the fight, lol." Known for his sharp commentary, Plemons criticized the commission for downplaying the intensity of the match. His remarks suggest that framing the event as a light contact exhibition could undermine fan excitement, especially for those expecting a real boxing showdown. Meanwhile, Floyd Mayweather, never one to back away from the spotlight, appears to be making strategic moves of his own. Analysts believe his rumored fight with Mike Tyson isn't just about money, it's about legacy and pride. As hype builds around Jake Paul and Mayweather protege Gervonta Tank Davis, Floyd seems intent on reminding the world who still commands boxing's biggest stage to be why lining up a mega fight with Tyson. Mayweather has shifted public attention back to himself, ensuring that Jake vs. Tank remains second tier in the headlines. It's classic Floyd: stay relevant, dominate the narrative, and prove that in boxing, his name still carries unmatched weight.
That there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events. That's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis, Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
At the core of this debate is the issue of legacy. For Floyd Mayweather, now retired and undefeated, these exhibition fights carry little risk. They're primarily about financial gain and maintaining his reputation. Jake Paul, still new to boxing, leveraged these high-profile spectacles to build his name and fan base. But for Gervonta Davis, the stakes are much higher. Each fight at this stage of his career shapes his long-term trajectory. By focusing more on entertainment than genuine competition, Davis risks alienating purists who want to see him tested against top-tier opponents. The real question is short-term fame worth potentially sacrificing lasting respect and legacy?
What is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight that is a real competitive fight. But the marketing of it is the same thing, and the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And now I'm going to tell you this something else too. I would not put it past these people.
The matchup between Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul might have been enough to dominate the conversation, but Floyd Mayweather's latest move ensures he remains impossible to ignore. For decades, Floyd has mastered the art of commanding attention, even if it means bending traditional boxing rules. His newest strategy highlights his relentless competitive spirit. He refuses to let anyone, whether it's Jake Paul with his celebrity appeal or Tank Davis in his prime, become the defining figure of boxing's current era. By signing a fight with Mike Tyson, Floyd has effectively reclaimed the spotlight as boxing's main event. The combined nostalgia of Tyson's legendary name and Floyd's undefeated record creates a far more compelling and marketable storyline than Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. The controversy around the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight stems from its status. It's not sanctioned as an official professional bout. With the Florida State Athletic Commission refusing to approve it as a professional contest, it's been labeled an exhibition, more show than true competition. Critics argue this shifts the event closer to WWE-style entertainment, where the focus is on spectacle rather than victory. With no knockouts expected and no official stakes, many see the fight as a marketing stunt rather than a legitimate boxing match. While it may generate short-term hype, purists believe it ultimately dilutes the authenticity and spirit of true boxing competition.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. It'll be an exhibition fight, end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing, kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff, but I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that, Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's going to happen on this. I don't know, but regardless of the fact, the fight is going to do well because it's going to be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's going to watch the fight. So it's going to be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted.
Former world champion Pauli Malignaggi has been particularly outspoken about his frustrations with the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis matchup. He argues that knockouts only hold true value when they come against real, evenly matched opponents. To him, manufactured fights like this one cheapen the sport. Malignaggi also believes Jake Paul is being granted undeserved credibility by taking part in events that prioritize spectacle over substance. During a debate with Chris Algieri, Pauli emphasized that while casual fans might enjoy the entertainment, serious boxing enthusiasts recognize that this fight lacks the integrity of a genuine championship bout. His criticism hits the heart of the issue. Authenticity. One major reason the fight cannot be classified as a professional contest is a significant weight difference between the two fighters. The Florida State Athletic Commission was clear that such a wide disparity creates unfair conditions and risks the safety of both men. As a result, they only approved the fight as an exhibition, a sparring session with predetermined decision guidelines rather than an official sanctioned match. This decision highlights the structural limitations within boxing. Entertainment has its place, but regulation.
This, Paulie? Knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture knockouts. You can't manufacture.
To
a degree, you can. To a degree. I mean, you can. Yeah, Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
current champions.
If he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way
Paulie,
we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way they did when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No,
and
because
Teddy
he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time he fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this
with the expense of Witherspoon.
That we're afraid of
with
him.
the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who I contract.
You can say the same thing about
who had contract issues with King at the time. Except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when you gonna fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as the Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you can say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar. And the way that he was, and like you said, he fought
him
everybody.
Up and he knocked out.
And he was a knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually sell tickets.
There's a push, bro. I was at
Canelo
Showtime.
Alvarez.
I was at Showtime.
Canelo Alvarez.
But champ, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because here's the thing.
Push.
There's a push for certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent when they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents. I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and high-level fighters.
Broadcaster Adedola Depot took a different perspective on the situation. He argued that staging an exhibition fight while both Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul are still in their physical primes is a misstep. In his view, exhibitions make sense only after fighters have passed their peak years, like Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Holding such an event now, while both still have meaningful careers ahead, risks distracting them from bouts that could truly define their legacies. For Oladipo, it's not just about the spectacle, it's about timing. These prime years are irreplaceable, and using them for sideshow events could ultimately harm their long-term reputations.
Whether you agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit, don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Or was that it? I can't even remember. But it was right at the end. It was done. Right at the end. Even if it wasn't. Right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. Guessing he walks around about 155.
Reports have revealed that Gervonta Davis cancelled his planned rematch with Lamont Roach to pursue the fight against Jake Paul. This decision raised eyebrows, highlighting how spectacle is increasingly taking precedence over genuine sporting rivalries. Roach represented a competitive challenge that could have advanced Davis's career in a traditional sense. Instead, Davis opted for the higher-paying but less meaningful option. This trade-off between money and legacy is becoming more common in modern boxing, prompting critics to worry about the precedent it sets for future generations of fighters. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis matchup is the clash of contrasting attributes. Jake Paul holds a natural size and power advantage, capable of physically dominating if given the chance. Meanwhile, Davis brings elite skill, speed, and years of professional experience at the highest level. This dynamic creates an unpredictable contest. Can skill overcome size, or will raw power overwhelm technical mastery? Such contrasts are rare in traditional boxing, where weight classes exist to prevent mismatches like this. By breaking that barrier, the fight injects both danger and intrigue, keeping audiences hooked even if it's not officially sanctioned.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, he's a lot more skilled. Jake, he has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers weighed in on the debate with a crucial reminder. Underestimating Gervonta Davis would be a mistake. While Jake Paul's size advantage is undeniable, Chambers emphasized that Davis possesses skills far beyond Jake's level. A smaller fighter with superior technique can still dismantle a bigger opponent, especially one lacking refined boxing ability. Chambers' warning shifts the narrative from a simple mismatch to a real test of whether Jake can handle elite-level boxing intelligence. For Chambers, the takeaway is clear: size matters, but skill often matters more.